Wait, so Yugioh visited Void Bakery to make sure they had enough curry bread? Because that was the secret to reversing the ice effects all along? And this was foreshadowed in episode 32 when Mr. Tanzaki gave UTS the leftover curry bread as a snack for their picnic? Okay, but more importantly, this show is set well into the past, basically before Rush Duels or the invention of solid vision. Hello everyone and welcome to Dueling with Downton, and today we're talking about episode 39 of the Yugioh Go Rush series. An episode that gave us a lot of information, and I for one cannot wait to speculate. So, we're jumping straight in. So, we're in the past, and we know this thanks to Yugioh telling us this much. And together with Asaka and Yuna, he's been able to recreate Rush Duels and bring futuristic technology into the past. Now there are two things we also know to be true as well. This is of course the real Yugioh from Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's, because we see the curry-filled spaceship appearing as he sort of enters the time period. But wait, curry fuel? Dragier's curry? Curry bread reversing the ice effects? The Luke freezing everyone? And the Luke looking like Luke? And the Luke liking the Dragier's curry? Wait a minute, why are there so many curry connections? Plus we also technically have a Kirishima slightly involved as well, like how Roman made the curry, and how Rovian was the Luke's first victim. Oh my, it's just a coincidence, it's just a coincidence. The second thing we know to definitely be true is the fact that this show is taking place between the 2-year time skip, as of course Yugioh disappeared at the end of his duel with Otis. And when he appears back into the future, he has the kind of visor and helmet that we see him have as, the guy that he uses in this duel. Now I do want to say something that's a little bit far-fetched, but hear me out. At the ending of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's, we hear his mother say upon his return, "Welcome back." And that works, right? So does she know something? Had the future been altered? I wonder. Because think about it, they're getting Rush Duels much earlier, and from the looks of it, Goha, Yuna and Mutsuba, with Yuna and Asaka, are growing closer as their respect for each other grows. And I can see that kind of continuing as the series goes on. Now, of course, we don't know if we're going to have a past timeline split and branch off and make it into the past, but also a different universe basically, because obviously now they've got futuristic technology, they've got Rush Duels in the past, the future is obviously going to be different. And because Yugioh went back to the future at the end of 7's, that timeline that we saw hasn't really changed all that much. So it tells us that that timeline kind of hasn't been altered, but maybe one or two things have changed. And if you're wondering how that would work in terms of 7 still having Otis, well then the Yugioh can obviously create something that basically projects Otis into the timeline that has himself as a kid before he made Rush Duels, in order to continue that loop and that cycle. I can see it happening, kind of making Otis, instead of like a physical character, he's just a character that's spread across a multiverse. But at the same time, I do think he did have a physical appearance, so we'll have to wait and see. It's a really interesting topic that does open up a lot of possibilities. So once we start learning more and more, and we've had time to process everything, I do really want to revisit this topic and dive much more in, and kind of speculate on how the future could be changed, because we don't actually get to see much of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's future when Yugioh returns. We just see him come back, and some uniforms have changed and our protagonists are slightly older. Really quick though, I do want to mention Goha Yuna making the Luke read his own manga and him freezing. This was an amazing bit of comedy that made me laugh so much. I loved it, it was brilliant. Even topped off with Yuna being overconfident and kicking the ice and hurting herself. But now then, this duel was awesome and a lot of fun to watch from start to finish. The Luke used 2 Dragia stars, which was so hyped and fitted perfectly with his deck playstyle of him utilizing this whole, if I have a monster with the same name, I can use this monster. And as well as the fact is, this fusion monster that he used has a multi-choice effect, which summoning two of them in the same turn kind of basically renders the multi-choice effect kind of irrelevant and useless, because at the same time, one monster can just use that effect, and then the other one can just use the secondary effect. So hey, you've got both effects. But then across the other side of the dueling pond, we also have our main protagonist fuse the ace monsters together. We have Seven's Road Magician fusing with Transamu Rainic to create Transamu Road Rainic, which doesn't have a multi-choice effect, or it's not a new monster type, because we already have Galaxy type established within Rush Dueling. So could this mean that some of the fusion monsters that we're going to be seeing moving forward won't have multi-choice effects, but then some like really powerful boss monsters that are fusions will have them? It's weird though, because when I say that, you would think that this fusion between two ace monsters would be a boss monster, but the effect that it does have still makes it quite viable and quite powerful, but at the same time I don't think we're going to see it very much, because obviously you need Seven's Road Magician, and that's still going to be with Go Hard Yuna. Also, seeing Yugioh actually use Seven's Road Magician and doing the summoning chant was really cool, and it makes him the 5th person to do this, because I believe we've had Yuna, Yuga, Otis, Luke, and now Yugioh, and I think Seven's Road was used by Yugioh, but we never had him say the actual chant, so I'm not including him in that list. Now on the topic of Yugioh, his speech at the end may have been a little bit cheesy, yes, come on, but I don't care, as it does hold some truth. Yes, at first, the manga was boring, and that's why it turns people to ice, but at the same time, the whole idea of the manga, the premise of it, carried through all of its adaptations, and made the Mr. Universe manga into what it currently is, that has made people smile throughout of the universe that they're currently in. Now of course, once Luke understands this, we do see the return of that brilliant smile of his, and that just basically makes the duel even more wholesome at the end. Going into Yuga's backstory a little more was really interesting to see how at first Yuga didn't want to share the knowledge of the futuristic technology and of Rush Dueling, but only did so because he actually wanted to make the people of this time era smile, which is exactly how Rush Duels was intended to do. Rush Duels was originally created in Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s to bring smile and fun back to the kids of Goha City, because they were oppressed and forced to duel Goha style all the time. So I really do like the similarities here, and also, strangely, I like how Yuga went off with the Lug at the end, making it so that we can't get more information out of him for the time being, and of course we're now going to be staying with fusions and equip spells, and we won't have like Yuna nagging him for another summoning method such as maximums. I think maximums will reappear at some point within the series, but I don't think it will be just yet. I think we need to give it at least 2 more arcs before maximums come back, maybe in season 2 of Go Rush, who knows. Yuga also being Yugioh's prisoner was also interesting to see as well, as it raised up another question. Where did Yugioh learn about Rush Duels? Because Yugioh knew about them before Yuga even mentioned anything. Could Otis have appeared in this timeline as well? Because we know that both characters went through that portal at the end of their duel that was created by the Perfect 7's trap card. Maybe Otis just appeared in a different part of this world, on a different planet, and maybe he might be behind the people attacking Valagir. Who knows? While on the topic of Yugioh, he disappeared during this duel. Maybe his Earth Demand defense time ran out, or maybe he was kind of affected by absorbing too much negative power. Could someone have transported him out of there and maybe imprisoned him? Maybe someone who's been hunting down Yugioh for a long time. Either way, it's interesting to note that Yugioh did take a page of the manga with him, giving him the possible use of this freezing power that we've seen terrorize so many people throughout this arc. I'm also curious to see how dangerous it could be if this manga page and power was infused with Earth-Tama that basically we saw Yugioh use with his dual disc. Just dip the paper in Earth-Tama and bring it back out after 10 hours or something. See what happens. Moving on to Valug, hearing how he's now feeling depressed and bitter and miserable and confused after hearing all of those negative comments about his manga and not understanding how Yuga can have so much fun, is genuinely understandable for him to feel this way. Plus, I loved how, at the start, he's just done with everything. He doesn't actually care anymore, and he's basically just saying, look, I don't care who I duel. In fact, I'll duel both of you at the same time. Just bring it. It just perfectly encapsulates and displays his state of mind after being, well, bullied by Yugioh and tormented and destroyed mentally. So the question, how do you make an already menacing looking dragon more powerful and frightening? Well, simple. You give him another head, you duplicate it, and give one of them a sword. A dragon with a sword is not a new idea within Yu-Gi-Oh, but it looks very satisfying to see, and I kind of really like the design of it, both without and with a sword. Again, it's not a new monster, we saw it in Sevens, but it's still awesome to see it return. Throughout this duel though, I did want to mention that the Luke also had some very interesting and cool looking cards, like Back to the Fusion. Yes, this is a pun, but it's just really cool as well, and the design on the card was awesome. Plus we had cards like the Cancel, which seems very broken, because it just returns your fusion back to your basically hand, which is your extra deck, but you can special summon 2 monsters from your graveyard, which again is useful, but is a very good card and we got to see it. Unfortunately, 7th Paladin kind of, again, got the short straw with that card. So hopefully we do see the Luke return in the future, because he's a character that I am really liking and I thought he had a good arc this time around. Finally, Nyanda. This is something we all knew that would happen. She's feeling sad after everything that has gone down, and she should be. She betrayed her friends and lost her trust in mostly everyone. She attacked her partner / friend and lied to the team. She teamed up with the enemy as well of all things for her self-gain. Therefore, it's highly understandable that she's feeling sad or even torn about whether or not she can or should be allowed to rejoin our heroes. Our crew are too kind and forgiving, so they will forgive Nyanda, but it's just a case of Nyanda realising that and taking the first step in rebuilding everyone's trust and gaining that back. So hopefully we see that kind of process happen over the next few episodes, and it doesn't take too long, but we do need that closure and that kind of reconnection building between Manabu and Nyanda. So overall, I really like this arc, and it ended perfectly. It was full of hype moments, and the lore that was given was much needed and added so much to the series that we can talk about it for days on end. I do feel sorry for Misoto, as she clearly has been left in the dark, and when told about Suijo's disappearance, she honestly doesn't know anything. The expression of sadness on her face is an expression that you cannot fake. It looks so genuine. So hopefully she gets some closure soon too. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on this amazing episode. Comment them down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions and everything on that. Hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, stay tuned because I'll be ranking some stuff soon. I'll be doing more non-review videos, so you don't want to miss that as well. Have a great day. Alligator Matane. Goodbye.